Super. Okay, recording in progress. Okay, guys, welcome again. Today we are going to be talking about leadership, which, if you ask many people about what do you think is the most important soft skills or intellectual skills someone should possess, they would tell you leadership. This is the opinion of probably more than 85% of people in general. There is no research that proves this, but this is my assumption based on my experience because all the people that I interacted with them in a professional development set when I asked them about soft skills or when I asked them about what topic you want us to cover, it's mostly leadership. There is also public speaking, but leadership it's the number one like requested training and also the number one answer whenever I ask people what's the most important skills that you need to develop for your success. Um, I have different opinions on that. Maybe we will share it another stage, but it is true. Leadership it's one of the most important skills that we need to acquire and that we need to develop. So today we are going to talk about leadership development, and we are going to talk about emotional intelligence. Now, the idea when I put together the proposal about the professional development club in the American corner, I was thinking either I have two sessions where I tackle leadership and then another session where I tackle emotional intelligence because both they have a lot to talk about. But then I told myself it would be best to merge both of them, have as many details as possible in one training because both they are interlinked. And you will see later how these both trainings are interlinked. These both skills are interlinked. And today the agenda basically will be we're going to cover four main topics or four main bullet points. First of all, we're going to talk about the definition and the styles of leadership. As you know, there are specific styles of leadership. As I mentioned previously, there is a long list of, sorry, there is a long list of styles of leaders or of a leadership approach that we are going to address. Later, I will tell you guys which approach is the best. Second, we will talk about the 6 rules of success in a leadership position. Then we will talk about useful tips how to develop your leadership skills. And finally, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence. We are going to talk about what is emotional intelligence and how does it relate to leadership. We will talk about how a leader and why a leader should be skilled when it comes to emotional intelligence. And we'll discuss later the emotional intelligence piece. Now, while I go through the training, I want you guys whenever possible. I mean, you can just focus on the training, but also if you can drop a quick message on the chat box where what's your definition of leadership and what's your definition of emotional intelligence. You don't need to do it now. You can even do it later in the Q&A session, but you can now leave the messages on the chat box. Just quickly define leadership, or I'll make it easy for you. If I say leadership, what's the what is one word that would define leadership for you? For example, if I tell you leadership, what's the first thing that would come to your mind? Would it be like problem solving? Would it be maybe teamwork? Would it be what is it exactly? So just one word that for you would define leadership. Just drop it on the chat box, and later in the Q&A session we will discuss it. So let's dive in. Leadership definition and styles. Bear with me here. I am going to share with you 3 definitions of leadership based on 3 books that I personally read, and I will share with you guys. And I would really, really, really advise you to study the books. I repeat, I advise you to study the books. And the reason why I say study, because there is a huge difference between reading a book and studying a book, especially when it comes to professional development books, because I know other people, I am also a big fan of fiction books, but fiction books, I read them. But when it comes to professional development books, books that are talking about soft skills, intellectual skills, about career, about success stories, biographies, I do study them. And studying the books is basically when you take notes, when you take remarks, when you make comments to yourself, etc., etc. So I'm gonna share these three books with you. Take notes, try to find them. I think that in Fnac you can find them, or anywhere in Tunisia you can find them. And try to buy one per month and study them. And the other thing that I would highly advise you guys whenever you are reading the leadership book, because I know that some people sometimes they have a book, they put some challenge with themselves to finish the book as soon as possible within 2 weeks so they can shift to other book. I highly advise not to do this when it comes to valuable books that talks or that would help that talks about intellectual skills or that will help you to develop skills. So basically what I do is that I always take my time in reading professional development books. So these books that I'm going to share with you today, I really took my time in reading them. So I did not, for instance, challenged myself to finish these books in 2 weeks or in 3 weeks. I read them for a month and probably even more because I took my time in each chapter. Sometimes I repeat a chapter when I do not understanding, and I try to take notes and I try to analyze the chapters, etc., etc. So this is one approach that I highly advise all of you to follow when you have a really interesting piece that you are reading and that is helping you to improve yourself. Again, this is when it comes to intellectual skills books. But when it's fiction, it's really interesting. You can read it. You don't necessarily need to take notes. You can read it. You can challenge yourself. You can finish it in 1 week or 2 weeks, as you wish. So let's start one by one.
Sorry to interrupt
Simon,
you. Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
yes.
When you say personal change and personal development, I'm reading, by
Mhm.
the way, these days, I guess one of the most insightful books by Stephen Covey, if you remember, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yes,
And
I read
these
that one.
days, yeah, Eight Habits also. You
Yes,
see
yes,
it?
yes.
Don't
There
read
is
it.
the yeah, yeah. There is the eighth habit is basically to I forgot what's the habit exactly, but
Mm,
to keep update your skills as much as possible. I think
yeah.
that this is like the eighth habit. It's one of the greatest books that I read, and it's actually one of the greatest books that someone can read. And I highly advise that you take your time as much as possible when reading this book. So yeah, in terms of the leadership books, the first book that I highly advise that you guys read is Leaders Eat Last for Simon Sinek. It's the New York Best Times bestseller, and it's one of the greatest books that I read. And for Simon Sinek, the definition of leadership is basically if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are basically a leader. This is the definition for Simon Sinek. And Simon Sinek is a motivational speaker, but also a writer who writes a lot about leadership and leaders. The book number two is What Got You Here Won't Get You There, and this is a book that I'm reading currently, which is a book that is talking about how to reach your goal and to become successful and how to take it to the next step to become more successful. And Marshall Goldsmith defined the leadership as follows. Successful people become great leaders when they learn to shift the focus from themselves to other. So this is basically the definition of leadership in the book of What Got You Here Won't Get You There. The third book that I want to share with you is by Brené Brown, and it's called Dare to Lead, and it is an amazing piece that I really recommend that you guys read. And the definition of Brené for the leadership is I define a leader as anyone who takes responsibility for finding the potential in people and processes and who has the courage to develop that potential. So this is basically the definition of leadership. So these are three. I could have taken a definition of leadership from Google. I could have come up myself of a definition of leadership, but I wanted to merge the definition with the book, or to write a definition of leadership from really inspiring books that they talk about leadership, and I share them with you. These three books, I highly recommend that you guys read them. They're really interesting, that they will teach you a lot about leadership. Not only this, but they will also teach you how to become good leaders. So this is the definition of leadership. Now, let's talk about the leadership styles. Please understand that if you go out there or if you go online and you take training, I'm pretty sure that either in the past or in the future, you either took or you will be taking leadership courses and leadership training. In terms of styles, there is a long list of styles for leadership. So the one that I am sharing with you today, guys, they are not the only styles existing. There is plenty of other styles, but I tried, based on my research, on the books that I read, to highlight the most important styles, and I'll tell you exactly why I chose these four styles to share with you. So it doesn't mean that there is only these styles, but if you attend other training and you see that the trainers they share with you other styles, that's okay. Don't be confused. The style number one is the democratic style. Basically, here leaders, they listen. Their key goal is to make the right decision. They gather data to use for making their decisions. They value collaboration in the team and with their employee or with the team member, and they make sure everyone participates. So this is one of the most common styles, and this is basically a style that someone who got promoted to a leadership position for the first time, they try to adapt because it's the most basic, it's the easiest style as well. So basically when you become a leader, you want to show that you are good at what you're doing. So you just, give room to other people to express their opinions. You give room to other people to express their feedback. You listen, you take into consideration their opinion, and then you act accordingly. There is one misconception about democratic style leadership. There is a lot of people, when you tell them that I have a boss or I have a leader who's democratic, they think that the employees or the team that they work with the leader, they make the decision as well. This is totally wrong, because as a leader, and this is for you guys as well, one day you will become a leader, or if you are currently a leader, you have to understand that you are the only one who should make a decision, and you are the only one who should be accountable for the decision. No one else should make a decision with you. You need to let people express their opinion. And as I mentioned here, as a democratic style, you gather the data, and the data basically is the opinion, the comments, the feedback that the team shared. You analyze the data that you have, and then you make a decision accordingly. So this is basically really important misconception that people think that a democratic leadership style approach is that they let the team make decision with them. That's completely wrong. Leader, it doesn't matter what's the style, the leader should take and make the decision by her or himself, because later a leader is the one who's accountable. So this is the first style, which is democratic style leadership. Now, autocratic style. This is a style that we know mostly in political leaders, but also we have a lot of bosses in our professional setup that are autocratic. And there is a specific case where autocratic style leadership is necessarily and is efficient. And there is another misconception that I want to share with you, is that If I tell you that the leader is an autocratic leader, let me define it first, and then I'll tell you this misconception. Basically, an autocratic style is command and control approach. It's basically a leader that will give you order and you have to follow. They do not want to hear their opinion. They do not want to hear what you think about the process. They give you an order and you have to follow. And they tell you exactly what to do. And they are not looking for any advice from you. And they are not looking for any pursuit of consensus. And consensus is basically, you know, like an approval from you or a validation. No, they basically give you an order you have to follow. It's, we say it in the jargon, my way or the highway. So you have to follow. And they make a decision based upon their own evaluation of the situation, not based on other people's evaluation of the situations. They are boss-centered, but also you have to understand that this style is positive when it comes to crisis. That is, you know, every organization or every company in the world, sometimes they go through crisis in the company that is affecting the numbers, crisis in the company that is affecting the you know, the structure of the organization, the reputation of the organization, etc., etc. You have to understand that in this specific situation, if I own the company, I do not want a leader who will go out there and will ask for the team opinion, and they will see the opinion, what they think, and they wait for opinion to suggest decisions. No, I want someone who will be there, who will lead the organization or the company through the crisis to get out from the crisis. So this is a positive thing about an autocratic style. So I want you to remember, guys. So when someone says that my boss is autocratic, you have to understand that this is not a negative. I know that sometimes if we have one of our friends or someone that we know or someone with a reputation of being autocratic, or as I said, like some of our friends coming to us and tell us, oh, like my boss is someone who's autocratic, he always telling me what to do exactly, he doesn't want to hear my opinion, etc., etc. You need to understand further the context, because by understanding the context, you will understand whether this autocratic style is efficient or not. So this is really important. So that's why autocratic style leadership, it is not necessarily a bad thing, but in certain situation, it's a positive thing. However, if the leader doesn't matter if they are in time of crisis or in time of ease, they are always autocratic, that will come with a lot of negative outcomes, like people starting to leave the organization, leave the company, etc., etc. So to sum up, autocratic style leadership is efficient, but in specific situations only. So this is the autocratic style leadership. Another thing that I want you to understand, guys, is that, you know, it's something also we will discuss later. There is always this comparison between management and leadership. What is the best? Is the manager a good thing or the leadership good thing? And people, they will tend always to choose, oh no, I prefer to be a leader, I don't prefer to be a manager. This is something really important that I want to mention. Leadership and management is completely different things. So this is something that you have to understand, and later we will discuss it. And then if there is someone who's autocratic, it doesn't mean that that person is not a leader, is a manager, because all we have that misconception that an autocratic, someone who's not doing a good job, autocratic style, who's autocratic all the time, he's a manager, he's not a leader. That's completely wrong. That's not correct, because sometimes managers are way better than leaders. Sometimes a position of management is way better than a position of leadership. We will discuss it later. If I do not address this point, please remind me later in the Q&A session, and I'll discuss it. Now, there is the laissez-faire style. And the laissez-faire style, you know, the name says it all. The laissez-faire style is a leader who has a let-do approach. He's a hands-off. He's a non-interference, basically someone who would delegate tasks and he will let you, or she will let you do your job. They come to you, they tell you, here is what I need, here is by when I need it, just do it, and then we will see. This is something that many leaders they follow. This is something that many leaders, especially those who trust their team, they follow. But sometimes it's difficult for people that are especially recently promoted to a leadership position to do it, because they afraid that their leadership reputation will be affected if the employee or the staff fails. So they have a tendency not to follow the laissez-faire style, but they would give you something to do it, and they will keep following up with you to make sure that you are going toward achieving the goal that they asked you for. So this is the laissez-faire style. Now, the last is the coaching leadership. The coaching leadership is basically leaders who are heavily involved based on the performance of the staff. Leaders that they take risks and they empower staff. And they empower staff. And basically, the coaching approach, the reason why I said is based on the performance, because sometimes you have a team, you have one or two, they're doing a great job. So you either proceed with a laissez-faire style with them, or you proceed with a democratic style. But then you have another one who's not doing good. So that person, you would follow a coaching approach with them. Or you would follow an autocratic approach where you give them something, they do it, and that's it. Or again, you can follow the coaching approach where you coach them and then they become better. Sorry, you coach them until they become better and they become like, an equal performer to other colleagues. So these are basically the leadership style that I wanted to share with you. They are four: the democratic, the autocratic, the laissez-faire, and then the coaching leadership style. If you think of any other style, please drop a message in the box and in chat box, and then we will discuss it later in the Q&A session. Now, the $1 million question, I want you guys to focus on what I'm going to say right now, because this is the key information not everyone knows, but I want you guys to remember it during your professional career, and remember it if you want to be leaders in the future. Now, there is a question that is always asked, either in the interview, either, we have an informal chat, in a workshop, people would ask it all the time. It's about leadership. When they ask you about what is the best style of leadership, we have multiple styles. What's your preference in terms of what style you want to follow? Now, many of you, especially those who know the leadership styles, they have a tendency to choose one specific style and focus on. For instance, now I shared 4 different of leadership styles. Some of you, they might think, okay, I see myself on the democratic style approach, where, like I collaborate with the team, I listen to their voices, I listen to their advice, and then I make a decision accordingly. Other people, they would say, I would see myself in the laissez-faire style leadership, where I'm hands off, I let people do their job, and then they need to give me a result by the specific timeline. A few things that I want to coach and empower and encourage my staff, which is I completely understand. But the best answer to what's the best leadership style and what leadership style that I personally recommend for you guys to work on, and remember this, because also sometimes in job interviews, they ask you what's the best leadership style. It is important to understand that there is no specific leadership style better than the other. But there is another leadership style that you guys have to remember, which is situational leadership. Remember, it's called situational leadership. And the name says it all. Situational leadership approach is basically your leadership style need to be adjusted and adapted based on the situation and based on the circumstances and based on the people you are dealing with. Let me give you an example. If you are a democratic leader, or you have a style of democratic approach leadership, then you have a team that you are working with. Okay, the team that you are working with, they are a great performer, all of them, but then you have a weak chain, you have someone who is not doing a good job. But you know that person, he has the potential or she has the potential to be the best in the team. So there is something that is not going on with that specific person. What you need to do with that person? The answer is simple. You have to coach that person. And that would take me to the coaching leadership style. So from the democratic, now we are shifting to the coaching leadership style. While we are still talking about the same leader, while we are still talking about the same team, but we are talking about different people in the team and different situations. But then if you have the same team with the people who are a great performer, now you are coaching the one who is not a good performer, but the people who are a great performer, one of them, he's always a stubborn, doesn't want to follow direction, doesn't want to, always disagree about your decisions, always has something to say, etc., etc. That specific person, you have to follow with them the autocratic leadership style. That specific person, you have to make sure that you control and command him or her. You have to make sure that you give order and he or she needs to follow. You have to make sure that person follows your decisions. So now we are talking about the autocratic leadership styles. So see, guys, I'm talking about one leader, one team, but then the way that you are leading the team with each member, it's different based on the situation and based on the performance and the attitude of the team. So that's why the best leadership style is the situational leadership, where your specific style depends on the circumstances, the situation, and the team member. So this is, I want you guys to remember. We can discuss it further, of course, in the Q&A session. Leadership, the 6 rules for the success of a leader. Guys, I want you to remember these rules forever. There are 6 rules, but also you might find way other rules. You might find like other skills, other attitudes, other attributes of a leader that would help you to succeed. But I want you to focus on these 6 rules. The rule number 1, lead with the positivity. When you are a leader, there is no room for negativity. It doesn't matter what's the situation. You have to be optimistic with the team. You have to show joy, kindness, and constructive criticism. Even when you are going through a crisis, you have to show kindness to the team. And whenever you are providing criticism, you have to provide constructive criticism, because you are the leader. You are the role model. You are the one that everyone is following. If I'm following someone who is going to be leading me through crisis or through a battle, I want someone that is positive all the time, not pessimistic, but someone who's always optimistic, someone who brings solutions to the table, and we will talk about solutions in a minute. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2, you have to lead through crisis. So this is really important. You have to lead through crisis, but also you should not micromanage your team. Please try to avoid micromanagement of your team, but also try also to be involved more when there is a crisis. What I mean by that is, do not micromanage your team, but it's really important. Guys, please mute your guys, please mute your mic. Guys, please mute your mic. Mute yourself, please. Thank you. Do not micromanage, but be involved when there is a crisis. What I mean by that is that, and this is an approach that I personally follow when I have a team that I'm working with. I follow them during their work. I give them some goals that they need to achieve, and I delegate tasks. But in the same time, I do not micromanage. I do not bombard them every day where they are in their goals object, in their work goals. No. But in the same time, if someone comes to me and tell me we have a problem, that's when I take the front, and that's when I get involved heavily, and that's when I try to solve problems. Because you are the leader, you are the one who should be leading through crisis, not your team member. When there is crisis, you should not let your team leading, but you have to lead the team. So this is really important. Rule number 3 is to collaborate and do not dictate. Try to not to be authoritarian, and sorry for the spelling mistakes. Don't be authoritarian unless you need to. Again, this is, as I said, something that we mentioned in the autocratic style, but as a rule for good leader, for leadership to succeed, collaborate, don't dictate. This should be your approach most of the time, to collaborate with the team. Do not be authoritarian. Again, as I mentioned previously, unless you need to, unless there is a situation maybe with someone, or you have a crisis where you have to act accordingly and you have to act quickly, that's when you can dictate and no longer collaborate. Rule number 4, be transparent. If there is a problem, if there is a crisis, if there is an issue, I want you guys to be transparent. Here is the situation, here is the problem. Now, I want to address something really important in terms of transparency. And this is something that I want you guys to be embedded in your values forever during your professional career. And I want you to do this all the time, because this what makes the difference. And this, for me, what made the difference with the people that I managed before, who was good, who was the best, and who was the average, and who was not good. And for me right now, in my current job, if I want to recruit someone from the previous staff that I managed, I would choose a specific 1 or 2 person that, listen to this carefully, that person usually, when he or she comes to me with a situation and with a problem, they come to me with a solution as well. So remember this, whenever there is a situation, whenever there is a problem, it is important for you to be transparent about the problem. It is really important for you to communicate the problem. Either you as a leader to the team that you are leading, or you as a staff to the boss or the manager or the leader. You have to be transparent and you have to communicate the situation and the problem, but that's not it. I want you also, before bringing the situation, think about a possible solution. Even if the solution does not make sense, think about a solution and present a solution. Because when you punch me in the face, I want you also to comfort me that I will not have my nose broken. When you come to me with a problem, I want you to comfort me that I have some ideas about solutions. And that shifts my idea about you. And that also would put you in another level compared to other people. This is an important rule for you, whether you are a leader or you're not a leader, whether you are a normal employee, and even in your life. You go to someone, tell them there is a problem, but in the same time, tell them I have an idea about solutions. Even the solutions do not make sense. Please remember this, have it embedded in your values and in your, like work ethics. Problems, I have an idea about solutions. I do not want you ever that you go to your boss or to the staff that you're managing, I have a problem, or we have a problem, and it ends there. No, we have a problem, but also I thought about a couple solutions that hopefully might work. This is really, really important. Now, rule number 5, be open to feedback. Always welcome other people's opinion on you. This is really important because feedback is what is going to make you improve. Even if people, they shared destructive criticism, it is fine. It is fine. Because when they share destructive criticism, that's not a you problem, that's a them problem. They do not know how to share criticism. For you, you have an idea about your opinion, try to use that opinion or that feedback to improve as much as possible. So always welcome feedback, and always make sure to remind your team that you are open to feedback. Whenever there is a feedback, sorry guys, whenever there is a feedback, make sure that your team share that feedback with you. It can be over email, it can be also, you know, it can be like anonymous through a Google Sheet, for example, right? And always welcome feedback, because guys, the only way you improve is to accept feedback. You have to know what is working, what is not working, and you have to work on what is not working, and you have to improve what is working. This is really important. Rule number 6, and the last rule, lead by example, walk the talk. So when you say that you are doing something, do it. When you want people to follow you on a specific thing, you don't tell them follow me on that thing, but show them that you are someone who can be trusted. You are someone who is trustworthy, so everyone will follow you. This is the best way to become a leader. And this is the best rule, so people can actually rely on you and believe that you're actually a true leader. So this is the 6 rules of leadership. Now, let me share with you leadership development useful tips. This is for you guys, how you can build your leadership skills. We discussed this in multiple occasions, but on different contexts in previous training that we had. But I want you also to remember this and to follow the guides that I am going to share with you. Let me share a quote with you. And this is a quote by a guy called Vincent Lombardi, who lived between 1912 and 1970. And Vincent Lombardi is actually voted the best American football coach of all time. And when asked about leadership, he said, leaders are made, they are not born. They are made by hard effort, which is the price which all of us must pay to achieve any goal that is worthwhile. Leadership is something that is built. We do not born leaders. Leadership, it's not a gift by God that we are born with. No, leadership is basically a skill that we build, and we build through few I don't want to say experience, through few tips that I'm going to share with you right now. So leadership can be acquired, and I'm going to share the easy, visible, that everyone knows way, which is obviously training, application, and observation. Training, again, sorry for the spelling mistakes. Training is basically when you take training like this about leadership. They teach you, they give you insight, they give you idea, take notes, follow steps, follow advice, follow recommendations, and then apply them. Application is really, really, really important. Application is the things that you are learning right now. How are you gonna apply them? Do not wait until you get your first job, but you can apply them in your daily life, because leadership is about leading yourself first. When you set your own goals, do you work hard to reach those goals? when you have something that you want to achieve, what you are doing about it. Because basically these small things that is that you want to achieve is basically the same. The way that you are going to achieve those things are the same approach that you were going to apply when you have a team that you are leading. So leading yourself is the first step to acquire leadership skills. So training, wherever you learn from training, apply them. But also there is another way that is really important for you to learn and acquire leadership skills. Observation. This is my favorite by far. This is basically for me, for instance, when I interact with someone who's considered as a leader, someone who's in a leadership position in the organizations and the companies that I work with, I see them. I see them how they solve problems. I see them how they analyze data. I see them how they take decisions. I see them how they communicate. I see them how they behave with people. I see them how they address issues. So observation is really, really, really an important key. And when you see, and I mentioned this before, guys, and I repeat it again, probably this is the fifth time, there is the eye side and there is the mind side. The eye side is when you see a leader who's, for instance, and this is an example. Eye side is when you see a leader who's communicating and you are, oh, this is really impressive. I like what he's saying. This is not it. You have to do the mind side. The mind side is basically, why is he saying this? Why he used this vocab instead of this vocab? Why he said this in this specific time? Why he used this body language when he said that? Why is he using this in this specific tone? This is the mind side. And the mind side will help you analyze data, analyze what you are seeing, and that's how you acquire the knowledge. So this is the easy way to acquire leadership. Now, the difficult thing that you have to understand is leadership is acquired gradually and not instantly. Many people I can see right now putting in their LinkedIn profiles leaders, CEOs, owners, founders, whatever. But these people, they're still like, they just graduated from the universities. They even have like 1 or 2 years of experience. What did you go through? What crisis did you go through for you to become a leader? So you have to understand that there is a progression and there is a process, and it's a journey before reaching that leadership point. You have to understand also, like, there is a transition from supervising to influencing. So one day you become a manager and you become a leader, you become a team supervisor. There is a specific point where, for the view of the team that you are working with, you will shift from the supervision and the management to the point of being an influencer. Once you become an influencer, you are a leader. So this is really important. And as I mentioned, we grow based on how we respond to people and to challenges. Now, I will give you 2 main areas where you have to build those. So now we talked about how to acquire, the easy way and the difficult way. Let's dive deeper. If we dive deeper, we're talking about 2, I don't want to say area of skills, but 2 elements where you want to focus your skills building to become a leader. First of all, you have to build external skills, and you have to building internally. You have to build yourself internally. So external skills are basically the skills where you are going to be interacting with others. So here we're talking about emotional intelligence, problem solving, communication, delegation skills. So these are the skills where you'll be interacting with people, and these are the external skills. Now, building yourself internally, it's completely different. Building yourself internally means, what do you want to achieve and what are your purposes? where you want to go exactly, why you want to be a leader, what you want to achieve as a leader. And this is basically what is also called the vision. Where and what do you want to be? You have to have a vision. You have to set a specific direction of planning and execution. I want to be there and I will do this, this, and that so I can reach that specific point. Now, also the values. What are your values? What do you stand for? And what are the characteristics and beliefs that guide you and that guide our decisions? These are what is called the values. Now, internally, you have to have a purpose, you have to have a vision, you have to have a purpose, why, you have to have a vision, where and what, and then you have to have the values. What are the values that you really stand for? You have to want you want to be like trustworthy, you want to be reliable. So what are the values that you are living for and that you are working hard for? Now let's go to the last section, which is emotion intelligence. Emotional intelligence, what is it and how does it relate to leadership? Emotional intelligence, I'll make it simple for you. Emotional intelligence is the ability to control your emotions, but also to understand other people's emotions and act accordingly to those emotions. So this is something really important. The reason why I wanted to talk about emotional intelligence, because leadership and emotional intelligence, they have one thing in common. You have the leadership, if you have the emotional intelligence, what is the one thing common between both? Is people. People, it's the one common thing between emotional intelligence and between leadership. Leadership is evolving around people. Emotional intelligence is evolving around the emotions of people and yourself. So that's why emotional intelligence is tightly linked to leadership. If you ask me personally, if I am a leader, if I want to become a leader, what do I want to work on as a skill? I would tell you, drop everything right now and focus on your emotional intelligence abilities. There is there are five components of emotional intelligence. There is the self-awareness, there is the self-control, there is the social awareness, and there is the social skill. So if you see self, self, social, social. So it becomes with yourself and then it goes to the social circle. Self-awareness is whenever you're interacting with people, and here the context that I'm talking about is as a leader. So the self-awareness is paying attention to your own emotions. God, I'm making a lot of spelling mistakes. Sorry about that. Self-awareness is paying attention to your own emotions, your humility. When you're talking to someone, you have to be aware of yourself. You should not be lost in your thoughts. You should not be distracted. You should be aware of yourself so you can pay careful attention to your emotions and show humility to the people that you are interacting with. Self-control is you have to learn how to remain calm in situations, admitting mistakes and taking accountability. You have absolutely no idea how this is tough, but it is what it is, and this is what makes the difference. What do you think, guys, makes the difference between a true leader and a fake leader? Is the way how they control themselves and how they behave around people. So self-control is important. Sometimes things escalate. Sometimes there are tense situations. How are you going to remain controlled and how are you going to act during this situation is going to tell what kind of leaders you are. Admitting mistakes and taking accountability. Not everyone is admitting mistakes. Not everyone is able to to be accountable. Absolutely not. And we all know that not everyone is able to say, sorry, apology, true, I made a mistake, I'll try to fix it. No. But true leaders, that's what they do. You have to admit that you make a mistake and apologize. There is a book that I mentioned at the beginning, which is what got you here, what got you here won't get you there. It has a whole chapter about apologizing. and I highly recommend that you guys read this. Social awareness. So you have to be, when you are interacting with other people, you have to recognize and understand others' feelings. This is really important. You have to be paying attention to their body language. You have to listen carefully to what they say and make sure that you guys listen not to answer, but listen to understand. We all, most of the time, listen to make sure that we answer. No, you have to listen to understand the situation. You have to make sure that the people that you are interacting with, you are making them feeling important, because they are. The people that you are interacting with as a leader, they are really, really important, and you have to make them feel that they are important. Again, this is also a chapter that I read in the What Got You Here, What Get You There regarding social awareness. And again, I recommend that you guys read this book. Social skills is basically the skills how to interact with and leverage the others to reach our goals. So basically the social skills is the skills of how to communicate with other. It's basically like the intellectual skills, but every single skills that have interaction with people. So this is really important, how to set goals in a group, how to work in a group, how to make a decision in a group. So these are really important social skills that you have to be aware of. So these are the 5 components of emotional intelligence, and this is the emotional intelligence. And again, to sum up, why I'm mentioning this, because basically everything evolves around people, whether emotional intelligence and leadership. Thank you. This is it for the today's session. I hope that you guys enjoyed the session. I hope that you find it insightful. The recording will be shared with you. Again, emotional intelligence is a whole topic that we might discuss it soon again in another session. Leadership as well, it has plenty of other points that we need to discuss, but I tried to sum up both and address, because this is mostly theoretical, the key elements that you have to understand. There is something important that you need to understand. Leadership, it's true about people. Maybe, you know, the first question that I asked you, if you write one word that define leadership, probably some of you wrote people, but you have to understand, if you ask me leadership, I'll probably tell you self-awareness, or maybe self-development, or maybe self-leadership. Because leadership, we cannot start talking about people unless you are leading yourself properly. You cannot lead other people if you are not leading yourself in your own goals, in your own life, in your personal life, in your objectives, etc., etc. Then we will talk about people. You first, and then people. But when I say you first, it means building yourself first, and then there is people. Thank you. I think this is it. I'm wondering if there are any questions. The floor is yours, guys. I'm going to check the chat box for now. Yeah, just give me a second because I'll be checking the chat box. Can you please write the titles of the? Can you please write the titles of the books? Yes. Again, I will be sharing the recording with you of the training. The recording, you can check it, and then you can see the title of the book. It's basically Leaders Eat Last, Dare to Lead, and What Got You Here Won't Get You There. So these are basically the titles. Dare to Lead, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, and Leaders Eat Last. Oof. Guys, okay, I just realized that I was not sharing my screen. Okay. I'm gonna share with you the presentation, guys. Everyone in the meeting. I'm sorry, guys. I was basically having the presentation. I didn't see that you making comments regarding the presentation. I shared it with you here, the presentation. And let me. Yeah, I just realized that I was not sharing the PPT. I shared with you the PPT, guys. So the PPT, it has a specific structure. So if you just display it, you just, go one by one, you will see what I was talking about specifically. Yeah, I'm sorry again that I was not sharing the PPT. I just realized now when I saw that there is a lot of people that they were sharing comments. But let me go through the questions for now. Is the company that is a holder, manager, leader, key personnel, and employees, so altogether must share the vision? True. Question, as an instructor, how to be a leader with your students and with the teaching staff? So basically Najla, you asked a really interesting question regarding how to be a leader with your students and with the teaching staff. I highly recommend, so that is something that we will discuss it at maybe next time, storytelling, especially when we talking here about students and teaching stuff, right? Because basically when you are in a company and an organization, you lead by example. When you lead by example, you show and you basically walk in the talk and you show people that you are a great leader. But when it comes to teaching and students, it's completely different, right? You are not working on a case studies, etc., etc. But I want you to make sure that you sharing with them interesting stories about leadership all the time. Because when you share with them stories about leadership, or you can share with them stories about, like, I'm not sure what's the course that you are you are teaching. Just make sure it's not just theoretical all the time, but share with them some examples about the course or about the materials that you are. There is always like some interesting story that you can share with your students all the time. So this is called leadership through storytelling. And this is basically leadership through storytelling. It's basically when you do not have, like some projects you are working on together, or you don't have any, like a study you are working together where everything is theoretical, like in your case where you are teaching, right? So it is called teaching through it's called leadership through storytelling. So this is what I really recommend. Amal, is there supposed to be a presentation? Yeah, I'm sorry, there was supposed to be a presentation. I did not share the screen. I was hoping that any one of you would unmute and tell me that there is no screen sharing, but yeah, I shared with you the presentation, just if you can take a look. I started the recording, but I never shared my screen by mistake. I'm sorry for that. But yeah. So can you repeat the title of the book? If you open the presentation, you will see that there you will find the 3 books. And I think that you can basically find them in FNAC or in some libraries in Tunisia, or you can also, like, yeah, like you can see if there is any delivery or something, or if you have someone who's living abroad, you can ask them to basically bring this book. They are really, really great, and I highly recommend these. Are there any books about self-control that you may know of? Self-control, honestly, I do not think that. It's really interesting that you mentioned this, right? I think that, yeah, for if you see, like, what got you here won't get you there. There is a section that they talk about self-awareness, self-control, and social skills, etc., etc. So if you read that book, you will find chapter. I cannot think of a book itself, that is talking about self-control, but I believe that there are chapters in the books that they talk about self-control. I know that what got you here won't get you there. You will have a section regarding self-awareness and self-control. So start by reading this book, and then there will be a really interesting section when they talk about self-control. You don't need like a whole book, right? You need a chapter would be enough where they tell you how to self-control, and like how to build self-control, and they can give you example. Yes, leaders eat last, dare to lead. What got you here won't get you there. Yes, thank you, Najla. Yeah, that's it, guys. Again, I'm sorry that I did not share my screen. Again, a kind reminder, so there will be other sessions happening. If I make that mistake again, just unmute yourself. It's my bad that I didn't share the presentation, but it would have been really helpful that you guys see the PPT. I shared it with you. I'll ask also Ghada and Jillian to share with you the PPT. Please make sure when you use the PPT, just display it full screen, right? Because there is emotion, there is effects. So you will find it like, some texts are packed, but this is basically, there is some emotions, there are pictures, there is some specific structures. So you can play the recording, and in the meantime, display the presentation, so you will have an idea about what I'm talking, hopefully. But again, every time we have a presentation, there is a PPT, and I display PPT. I share the screen. I'm sorry this time I didn't do it. Again, if I do it another time in the future, just someone unmute themselves and just let me know. Sorry again. Now I have one last announcement, an exciting announcement, at least for me. So I'm coming back to Tunisia in 2 months, and hopefully these sessions, they will be in person. And when the sessions will be in person, we will have different type of workshops where we are going to have 45 minutes of theoretical training where I'm displaying a presentation and delivering a presentation, and 45 minutes of hands-on activity. Hands-on activities, these activities of case study where you will be working on a team, and where you will be using your leadership skills, problem-solving skills, teamwork, etc., to solve a problem. And then after that, we will have 15 minutes to discuss, issues, outcomes, the case studies, etc., So this is hopefully is gonna be either starting from October or from November, depend where I'll be coming back. I hope that I meet all of you guys in Tunis as well. We will have sessions in Tunis. We will have sessions in Sousse as well. And hopefully I can meet all of you in person. I think that in person, to be honest, I have a better structure in mind how we can do it. And I do believe that we need to have hands-on activity. So there will be plenty of hands-on activities, and hopefully we will meet soon. And yeah, this is basically the announcement. We will keep you posted, but for now, the next few sessions, they will be remote. We will definitely keep you posted on how we are going to proceed, what are the timelines, what are the dates, what are the next sessions, etc., That's it. Thank you, Dora. Thank you, everyone. It was really great to be with you today, and see you next time. We will share with you soon the next sessions. I think it's going to be about communication skills and storytelling, if I'm not mistaken, but Ghada will share with you the content and the link as well. Will there be certificates? Maybe in the in-person, we will discuss. I mean, it's too early about certificates, guys. Try to learn first, and certificates comes later. Trust me, if you learn those skills, trust me when I say this, you will not need any certificates. You will not need any certificates, because it's really important, because there is a question that is always asked, which is, whenever I conduct a training, can you provide certificates? Is there any certificates? Now, the question that I ask people, why do you need the sessions will be part of this workshop or separately? They will be part of this workshop, yes. So basically, in terms of certificates, if I ask people what do you need, they would say that to put it on my CV or to put it on my resume. I totally agree with you, but trust me, there is no proof that you actually master those skills unless you display those skills in the interview. So for example, me, if I have a CV of someone who conducted hundreds of training of soft skills, leadership, teamwork, communication skills, etc., and then that person comes and sit on the interview, I do not really care about all the certificates that you put on your CV. Persuade me that you have those skills. Show me your speaking ability. Show me your leadership, etc. Because I did interview people that they have like a lot of interesting project management, soft skills, certificates, etc. But then when you talk to them, there is nothing. So that's why, I mean, true, it might be useful to put it in your CV, but it's a matter of, do you really have the skills? Because I can provide you with the certificates, but doesn't mean that you have a leadership skill, because you need to build it eventually. It's really interesting that you stay for a training, but I want you to work on yourself, to read those books, to try to lead yourself, to become a better leader. So when you sit in an interview, you don't really need to prove yourself through certificates. You can prove yourself through what comes from your mouth and from selling yourself properly in the interviewer. So this is like what my point of view regarding certificates. But still, I'll discuss with the American Corner and see if we can provide certificates during the in-person training. Going back to the sessions will be part of this workshop or separately. If we are going to be doing in person, this workshop, these sessions that we are doing will shift to be in person, no longer remote. So this is what I wanted to say, Aman. So it will no longer be remote. It will shift to be in person. So yeah, so this is it basically, and it's still gonna under the same umbrella of self-development workshop. That's it. Thank you, guys. So instead of sharing the recording, this time I'll be sharing the PPT. I'll ask Ghada to share with you the PPT. I will also try to share with you the recording as well. So you can have like the PPT and you can have the recording. And yeah, if there is any anything unclear, just send me an email. You have my email, guys, and ask for clarification. You are always welcome. You have also my social media, etc. So yeah, that's it. And thank you, guys, and hopefully we see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.